Okay, this is one of my favorite books, Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann. Um, the cross-bearer and the altar boy were stuck there at the door and couldn't get in. Okay? It figures that we have these typical difficult situations. But anyway, you're going to watch Anthony Bourdain, No Reservations, while I narrate because it's too hard to put this iPad on the text. So watch the little girl with stuff on her face. Okay? So, Magic Mountain is a text about it's a sanitarium, is a place where you go for rest when you're having mental instability. This one happens to be in Sweden. Our protagonist, Hans Castorp, is going there to get better. That's right. Watch Anthony Bourdain and his facetious double talk. And you're telling me only now, Hans Castorp said after a pause. I can't understand how you didn't bring it up yesterday evening. But my God, she must have had a lot of strength left to fight back like that. That takes strength. You shouldn't send for a priest until they're very weak. So we have a little girl who's sick, and they go in to find out what's going on. We have this notion here. He discusses strength and whatnot. That you shouldn't send for a priest until you're very weak. So one thing we have to consider is this dichotomy of religion in the context of the sanitarium. That in a very logical sense, these people are sick and cannot take care of themselves. Yet all the same, we still have this presence of religion and a higher power, someone else, essentially healing us, doing our dirty work for us. But she was weak, Joachim replied. Joachim is his friend who's showing him the ropes at this sanitarium. But she was weak, Joachim replied. Oh, there are lots of things I could tell you about. It's hard to know what to pick out first. Okay, he's alluding to the fact that he's been in this place for some time, and he's apparently has this this reserve repertoire of knowledge and information. She was already weak. It was fear that gave her so much strength. She was terribly frightened because she realized she was going to die. She was just a young girl. So it is excusable after all. Okay, what's excusable is this fear that she has. I don't want to mislead you about this text. I'm on page 62. Up until now, it's not really morbid at all in this sense. This is actually the first instance that we get this more intense morbidity, suggesting that it is going to be a theme in the book, but it's one that comes about gradually and slowly, which perhaps gives more resolution to it when it finally does appear in the text. What? Okay. But even grown men carry on like that sometimes, which is, of course, inexcusably weak-willed of them. Barons knows how to deal with them. He can strike just the right tone for such cases. It's interesting that they're so harsh with this text because this isn't necessarily something that has come about so quickly. What sort of tone? Hans Castorp asked with a scowl. So this is really the first time we're starting to learn about what's happening in this sanitarium. Most of the text before this is a lot of background about the life of Hans Castorp and his coming here. It's really starting to take a different tone. "Don't make such a fuss," he says. Joachim replied. Again, Joachim was very of frivolity and gayness before this. He's coming off a little aggressive. At least that's what he said to one fellow recently. We heard about it from the head nurse who was present to help restrain the dying man. He was one of those types who makes a dreadful scene right at the end and absolutely refuses to die, and so Baron simply dresses him down. "Would you please not make such a fuss?" he said, and the patient quieted down at once and died quite peaceably. As if they're trying to control what it is to be alive and to have death and pain in the sanitarium. And as I said, there's a much more casual tone until now. We get this feeling almost that people are forced into their context in this sanitarium, and they have to go along with these things, almost as if it's at this point being treated as a prison. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the rest of this text. I suggest you pick it up on your own time. One last shot of Anthony Bourdain, or not something else. So, yep, a little Chinese man. Okay, very good. Signing off.